Can't you see it everywhere and every day? One power indescribable, and you speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth, as simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angels' wings or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, oh, one power, one power, one power. We speak so many languages, have different clothing, different colors, different names. But different is only dangerous when we forget that in the heart we're all the same. And we'll remember once we close our eyes to see that such distances were never meant to be. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angels' wings or heaven's door. It's Muhammad, it's your mind, it's your soul or it's your sign. It's the universe, it's music, Mother Earth or Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very...
Good morning and welcome to Unity of the Blue Ridge. Thank you for joining us today from wherever you are. We were just talking about what week this is for home churching, and I think it's about week 14, but I've lost count. But we want to thank you for being with us this morning. We always light our candle here and know that many of you are lighting a candle wherever you are. And the beauty of that is it just reminds us that the illumination takes place wherever we are. And so we join our candles together, we join together in spirit. And as we begin our time together, I invite you to join me in an opening prayer. As we turn our awareness within this morning, we do so in the spirit of gratitude. The scriptures say, enter into the courts with praise and thanksgiving. We enter into a realm, a state of consciousness, a state of awareness through giving thanks, through the recognition of the goodness that is available in every moment. Today we open to that. We open to the gifts of spirit that are always available so that we may bring that spirit to the circumstances and the facts at hand, that we may be the way and never be in the way. Today we explore what it truly means to trust in our potential individually and collectively. And so we open our hearts to this blessing, that we may be blessed and that we may be a blessing. And in the name and the nature of all that is holy, we give thanks, and so it is. Amen. I want to thank you again for being here this morning. We're going to talk a little bit about trusting our potential. You know, there's a saying that comes from, I believe it's the X-Files, that says, trust no one, fear everything. Well, that's really a horrible mantra, but it's sort of like that's what's going on in the world right now. So where do you turn? What do you trust? And what does it mean to trust our potential? Well, we're going to look at that together today. I'm elated that I have a couple of other folks with me. First of all, I want to thank Acela on camera and Tia and back on the sound. And I want to invite up Mary Kay Williams. It's her first time, she said, being out and about in a long time. And so she's joining us here today, going to share some music with us. We have Richard Schulman again on piano, and we have Barefoot Pete Latrella on drums. So I'm not alone this morning. I thank you for that. Mary Kay, I know that you have been creatively staying busy. You've been making masks like this one and so many other nice ones. So how have you been managing over these past few weeks?
Feeling lots of feelings. Just trying to stay creatively engaged, making the masks. Having lots of conversations. Yeah. With people I love, family. We got to get Mom up on that Zoom thing. She's getting a new iPad so we can have some more family. I've never had so much family togetherness.
Yeah.
Since now.
Thank God for that, for the ability to connect like this. Well, Mary Kay is going to open up this morning with a beautiful song titled "Believe in Love." Thank you for being here.
Tell me something that I don't know. It hurts sometimes to let love show. So you sit around and wonder if it was worth all the pain. Or will all your loving have been in vain? Show me something that I can't see. I know this road is not one that's easy. Don't you worry, I'll always be right here to see you through. Please know it'll all come back to you. Be kind, be strong, believe. Be kind, be strong, believe. In love, believe in love. Tell me all the things that you feel. It does take time for wounds to heal, but you wait around and worry, well, the time is rolling on by. All because they didn't apologize. Take me to a place I've never been. There's no such place that love can transcend. I have stories of times when I proved it all to be true. Take my word, I'll take care of you. Be kind, be strong, believe. Be kind, be strong, believe. In love, believe in love. Don't you give up on love. Be kind, be strong, believe. Be kind, be strong, believe. Believe in love.
Wow. Beautiful beautiful song by Victory Boyd, sang by Mary Kay. Thank you, Richard and Pete and Mary Kay. Thank you all, and thank you again, each and every one of you, for joining with us today. As I said earlier, today we're going to talk about trusting our potential. I received an email this week that said, so far, 2020 is like looking both ways before crossing the street and then getting hit by an airplane. Sometimes it truly does feel like that. There's no way we could have seen this coming. Well, when I was thinking about this week, thank you, band. You can head out and we'll get you back in just a minute. When I was thinking about this week, I was reminded of something that we did when I was in seminary. In our communications class, my instructor that year was the Reverend Sky St. John, and he was such a wonderful being and teacher as well. But he had us do something in our communications class. We would prepare to give like a 15-minute sermonette or talk, if you would. But 5 minutes before we got up to speak in class, we were handed a Post-it note, and you never knew what it would say. Sometimes the Post-it note may say, an individual on the board had a heart attack and is in the hospital. They may have said, there was an earthquake last night and so many lives. There was an airplane crash, or a this or a that. And I just remember in class when we would be handed those things, you prepared your talk and you'd be handed that. And then the thing about it was, how do you think on your feet and how do you deal with constant change? And I remember in seminary thinking, gosh, I'm so glad that this is not real, that this much stuff doesn't happen all the time. And then now, this particular time, that I've been thinking about, 2020 has been so full. Even just these past few weeks, it's like there's COVID-19, there's racial inequality, there's LGBTQ rights, there's immigration reform, there's economic justice, there's political campaigns. And last but not least, arriving in western North Carolina is the gorilla dust cloud, the massive plume of dust from the Sahara Desert from Africa. And so sometimes you wonder what is going to happen next, and how do we be present to all of those things? Well, today I want to talk about what is it that we can trust in? In this day, in this age, what do you trust? Who do you trust? Where do you turn? And I'd like to consider and look at the idea of trusting our potential. And what does that really mean when I say to trust our potential? Antonio Gramsci said, "The old world is dying. A new world is struggling to be born. And now is the time of monsters." It kind of feels like that in some ways. But when the old is dying and the new is being born, there's a lot of chaos. And the things that had worked before, we can't necessarily use those same ways. The ways that we had of being and doing things may not literally be applicable today. So what do we trust? Where do we turn? When we consider what it means to trust our potential, we want to look at that in 3 different ways. Trusting your potential through the potential of spirit, trusting your potential through the potential of your personal integrity, and trusting your potential through the potential of the seeds that you constantly sow and nurture. So your spirit, your integrity, and the seeds that you sow and constantly nurture. So the first one, to trust our spirit, and to trust spirit, that in spirit, in God, we live and move and have our being, that we are spirit and body expressing. In the book of Revelation, it says, I am making all things new. I am that I am, this part of us that is before form. The essence of us, our spirit, is making all things new. This creative presence is constantly making all things new. that to trust our potential is to trust the spiritual nature. And as I said earlier, as I began to think about this week and this time with just so many things going on that are on our landscape and we're dealing with in our daily lives, we all want to help and we all want to show up and do our best, but it can be overwhelming. And I wondered this week if perhaps that is how Jesus felt in the story where he was faced with the 5,000 men plus women and children who were all hungry and needed to eat. And there were 2 loaves and a few loaves and a couple of fishes. That are there some things that we could learn about our spirit through that when you're overwhelmed? And the thing that just stood out to me in that story is when the 5,000 plus needed something, the potential was released at first as it was lifted. You know, the first thing that Jesus did in that story, one of the first things that he did was to lift it up. When we talk about trusting our spiritual potential, one of the most powerful things that we can do is whatever is before us, to remember it is a matter of spirit. That first and foremost, it's a matter of spirit. You may say, well, the debates about whether to wear a mask or not, Mary Kay and I were just talking about that before the service started, and how so many things have turned into taking a stand or not a stand. But at the core of it, what if we could remember that it's all spirit first and foremost, what if we could lift it up and whatever is before us to say, I'm lifting this up to spirit. I want to lift my own awareness up and to remember that I am spirit. That the way that I trust my potential, first and foremost, is to remember my spiritual nature. And trusting my spirit, it requires me to spend time in prayer and meditation and getting to know that still small voice. Getting to know that whatever I need is usually one idea away. And where is that idea coming from? Well, hopefully it's coming from inspiration, spirit flowing in and through and as me. That was the foundational message of Jesus, was to know the truth of our innate spiritual nature and our infinite source connection, to continually lift that up. So if we, as a spiritual community, could remember every day and whatever is before us, lift it up. Let us lift it up first and to say, you know what, whatever is going on, help me remember that it's spiritual first and foremost, and that I am spirit. And it's not so much, it's like, was it Emerson that said, it's not what's before us or behind us. Those are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. In the scriptures it says, greater is he that is within me than he that is within the world. Greater is the spiritual presence within me than the physical body that you see in the world. So we trust our potential as we grow our trust in our spiritual nature and our spiritual connection, and as we cultivate and make time for that. The second way that we trust our potential is through our personal integrity. You know, when you hear the word integrity, you think about truthful. In this context, integrity means to be true to your very highest and best. There is a lot of compromise going on in our society today. You don't have to turn very far at all to see there's lying, there's manipulation, there's deception. There's people not keeping their words. There's underhanded deals with ulterior personal motives. What if a part of what is shaking our world to the core right now is saying that, you know, as the scriptures say, you can't build your house on sinking sand. It must be built on a firm foundation. A firm foundation is your personal integrity. My mom used to always say, you need to do the right thing whether anybody is watching or not. She was speaking to personal integrity, that you don't do it because you might get called or somebody else may see it. You don't do it because you believe a God is going to punish you or reward you. You do what is right because when you're in integrity, that's the place from which you grow. Integrity is a foundation of a spiritually awakened and fulfilling life. And without integrity, you cannot reach your highest potential. Think about that. If something is out of integrity, it's not solid. Cause and effect are not in direct correlation. And so if something is out of integrity, you can't reach your highest potential. And so if we want to trust our potential, a very powerful thing we can do is to really pay attention to our personal integrity. And where are we out of integrity? Where are we cutting corners? Where are we not doing things as integral as we could possibly do? I've had it happen more than once in my life where I was in a store and was charged too much. And so I certainly would go back and say, wait a minute, this was wrong. And I've had it happen where they gave me a 20 instead of a 10, or I've even gone to the bank, which is a rare occurrence, and they gave me too much money. I seriously wondered if it was some sort of test. But because my philosophy is I do my best to be in personal integrity. And so when that happens, I could say, well, thank you, Jesus, that was unexpected income. But it would be at somebody else's expense. I know that it's not right. And so when those things happen, I do my best to make it right. Our world is being called to be in personal integrity. It's a necessary ingredient for authentic growth. I remember when I was in 4th grade, I had a teacher, her name was Miss Futrell. And she was kind of a scary teacher. When I was growing up in an elementary school, they still paddled you, and she would paddle, and she scared a lot of us to death. And so she wasn't a very liked teacher, unfortunately. And one day when she was out doing something, I remember some of the boys went up to the front of the room, and she had this makeshift shelf where she always kept a plastic, like a lunchroom plastic glass of water, and she had some books. She had her stuff for the day, but it was just this makeshift shelf. And when she went out, the boys somehow or another rearranged the bricks or whatever was holding it up. So when she came in, as soon as she put her stuff on it, it fell, her water fell, and of course the class just roared with laughter. And I'll never forget, she looked at that, and then she looked at us and she said, is there anyone here who does not know that that was wrong? She didn't that day ask who did it. She didn't have a fit, but it pierced me when she said, is there anyone here who does not know that that was wrong? Martin Luther King Jr. said, never, never be afraid to do what is right, especially if the well-being of a person or animal is at stake. Society's punishments are small compared to the wounds we inflict on our soul when we look the other way. I would say the way that we block our own potential when we live out of integrity. So how are you perhaps being called to be more integrity with your own self? There was a story of a business owner who was aging, and he knew that he needed to go ahead and appoint someone to be the vice president and begin to train to take over. And there were 6 or 7 individuals that were candidates that were some of the top executives. And so one day he called all of them into his office, and he explained, over the next year I'm going to need to be appointing a vice president, and it's going to come from one of you 7. And he said, so I'm going to be watching over the next 6-9 months, and I have something that I want each of you to do. And he handed each person a seed. He said, I want you to go home and I want you to plant that seed. And a few months from now, I'm going to ask you to all bring them back in. And that was what he said. So each individual took their seeds home and they planted them. Well, one individual planted their seed and nothing was happening. And just nothing was happening. They waited a couple of months and nothing happened. So they just went out and got another seed and planted it. Another individual, they weren't talking to each other about it, of course, but another individual, their seed never grew. The day came when the man said, all right, tomorrow bring all of your seeds, your plants back in. Let's take a look at what you've got. And so all 7 came into the room, and 6 of them had varying size of the plants, and 1 came in with a pot of dirt. And so the owner of the company asked each one to tell a little bit about how the growth had been, and everyone told. And then the last one holding the pot of dirt said, I'm embarrassed, and I know you're never going to appoint me because apparently I can't get a seed to grow, but I put the seed in this good soil, and I watered it, and I put it in sun, and it's not grown. And the owner of the company put his hand on that individual's shoulder and said, congratulations, you're the new vice president. He said, I want all of you to know that what you've done is out of integrity, everyone except this individual. And he said, I'll tell you how I know, because I boiled those seeds before I gave them to you. He said, not a single seed that I gave out had the capacity to grow. And he said, this is the thing about life. He said, I'm not looking for you to do incredible things. I'm looking for you to be a credible being. Isn't that powerful? I'm not looking for you to do incredible things. I'm looking for you to be a credible being. That's a powerful statement, and that's such a true statement. One of my colleagues, Reverend Kevin Ross, I heard him say last week, he said, right now we don't so much need theology as we need beology. We need people who are going to be the light of the world, who are going to be in their personal integrity. So how are we being called into an even more intimate and in alignment with our personal integrity? And that's nobody's business but your business about you. It's my business about me. But the reason it is so important is because integrity is a necessary ingredient for authentic growth. And so we began by remembering the potential of spirit, that spirit is always renewing life, and that when there seem to be dead ends and we don't know the answers, we don't know where to turn, we remember that the spirit within us can guide us. We begin to live that out by being in personal integrity with ourselves at all times as best we can. There's, some of the things that you can ask yourself is when you're facing something and you need a new way, you need an idea is to say, is there another way to approach this? Guide me, Spirit. Is there another way to approach this? Guide me, Spirit. Am I making assumptions? What assumptions am I making? Those kinds of questions, when we ask within ourselves, will keep us in integrity, and they open us up to the I am that I am, the Spirit within each and every one of us. So the potential of spirit, the potential of our personal integrity, and then the potential of the seeds that we sow and the seeds that we nurture. Kat sings a song by Eddie Watkins Jr. I can't remember the exact words, but it's like you don't plant a seed and then dig it up to see if it's growing. But we plant seeds every day with the contributions that we're making. One of our older members contacted me this week and said, I don't feel like I'm doing anything. I'm high risk. I can't leave my house. I'm not able to volunteer. And I suggested back, I said, you are doing something. You're staying home. You're being safe. You're holding others in prayer. There's so much that you're doing right now, and that is the highest and best thing for you to do. To know that our potential is expressed through our spirit, to know that our potential is expressed through our personal integrity, and to know that our potential is expressed as we give and do what is ours to do, because as we give whatever it is ours to give, as we do what is ours to do, we increase our capacity. It naturally grows our potential. Richard, would you give me that song? I want to close with a true story that was originally published in Reader's Digest back in 1966, but to me it's just a beautiful story that I remembered this week and dug out of my files. It says, when I was quite young, my family had one of the first telephones in our neighborhood. I remember well the polished oak case fastened to the wall on the lower stair landing. The shiny receiver hung on the side of the box, and I even remember the number, 105. I was too little to reach the telephone, but I used to listen with fascination when my mother talked into it. She once lifted me to speak into that phone to my father, who was away on business. Magic. Then I discovered that somewhere inside that wonderful device called a telephone lived an amazing person, and her name was Information Please. That was the first Google. Information Please. And there was nothing that she did not know. My mother could ask her for anybody's number, or if our clock ran down, she could ask us what time it was, and Information Please always had the answer. Well, my first experience with this genie in the receiver came one day when my mother was visiting a neighbor. Amusing myself at the tool bench in the basement, I whacked my finger with a hammer. The pain was terrible, but it didn't seem to be much use to cry because there was nobody at home to give me sympathy. I walked around the house, sucking my throbbing thumb, and finally arriving at the stairway, the telephone. Quickly, I ran for the footstool, and I climbed up. I unhooked the receiver, and I said, "Information, please." A click or two, and a small voice came into my ear. "Information?" "I hurt my finger." I wailed into the phone. The tears came readily enough now that I had an audience. "Isn't your mother home or your father?" "Nobody's home but me," I blubbered. "Are you bleeding?" "No," I replied. "I hit it with a hammer and it hurts." "Can you open the ice box?" she asked. I said I could. "Then chip off a little piece of ice and hold it on your finger. That will stop the hurt. Be careful and don't cry. You'll be all right." After that, I called Information Please for everything. I asked for help with my geography, and she told me where Philadelphia was. I asked where the Orinoco was, the romantic river I said I was going to explore when I grew up, and she told me. I asked for help with my arithmetic and with my pet chipmunk that I caught in the park the day before, and she said to feed it fruits and nuts. And there was the time that Petey, our pet canary, died, and I called Information Please and told her the sad story, and she listened. She said the usual things to soothe a child, to be consoled. But then I said, but why would a bird who could sing so beautifully and bring joy to whole families, why would a bird just end up as a heap of feathers, feet up on the bottom of a cage? She must have sensed my deep concern. Misinformation, please. Because she said, Paul, always remember that there are other worlds to sing in. And somehow I felt better. Another day I was on the telephone and I called, Information, please. How do you spell fix? F-I-X. Well, this took place in a small town in the Pacific Northwest. And then when I was 9 years old, we moved across the country to Boston, and I missed my Information Please mentor acutely. But Information Please belonged in an old wooden box back at home, and I somehow never thought of trying the tall, skinny new phone that sat on the table in our hall. Yet as I grew older into my teens, the memories of those childhood conversations never really left me. Often in moments of doubt and perplexity, I would recall the serene sense that I had when I could call, Information, please, and know that I would be given just the right, loving answer. I appreciated how kind and patient she had been for a little boy. Well, years later, on my way back to college, my plane put down in Seattle. I had about an hour between connections, and I spent 15 minutes or so talking to my sister. And then without even thinking, I dialed the hometown operator and said, Information, please. Miraculously, I heard the small, clear voice that I knew so well. Information, she said. I hadn't planned this, but I heard myself saying, could you tell me, please, how to spell the word fix? There was a long pause, and then she said, well, your finger must have healed by now, Paul, so it's really still you. They laughed together, and She said, I wonder if you knew how much you meant to me. I never had any children, and I used to look forward to your calls. Silly, wasn't it? No, it wasn't silly. I looked forward to calling you. Well, if I ever come this way, I'll call again. Please do, she said. Just ask for Sally. I finally had information, please, name. Goodbye, Sally, I said. It sounded strange for information, please, to have a name. If I run into chipmunks, I tell them what to eat fruits and nuts. If I have a bad day, I remember what you told me. Thank you, Sally. Have a good day. Well, 3 months later, I was back in Seattle at the airport, and a different voice answered, information, and I asked for Sally. Are you a friend? Yes, I said, an old friend. And I'm sorry to have to tell you that Sally had been working part-time the last few years because she died just a few weeks ago. But before I could hang up, she said, wait a minute, did you say your name was Paul Villard? Yes. Well, Sally left a message for you. She did? Yes, she did. I wrote it down just a moment. Here it is. I'll read it. It said, when Paul Villard calls, will you please tell him that I still say there are other worlds to sing in, and he will know what I mean. It's a true story from the late 1960s. There are other worlds to sing in. The true meaning of life is to plant a seed, is to plant a tree under whose shade you may never, ever expect to sit. You see, none of us can do everything that's going to fix our world right now, but we can do what is ours to do. Just as Sally was kind and patient with a young boy, you never know how that's going to make a connection. We trust in our potential through our spirit. We trust in our potential by being in personal integrity. And we trust in our potential by planting and nourishing seeds every single day. You're making a contribution with your prayers. You're making a contribution with your willingness to take right action. You're making a contribution with your willingness to stretch and to listen. You're making a contribution, as we said last week, when you don't take the bait, or you realize you took the bait, and then you work on getting rid of the bait and moving through that. I want to invite you to join me in a song that says, prepare me to be a sanctuary. As this week we open up to be the way, to allow this higher potential to use us to be the healing medicine that is needed in this time. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. I invite you to close your eyes if it's comfortable and safe for you to do so. Prepare me to be a sanctuary. I am that I am, the sacred chalice, the vessel, the hollow bone. I am that I am, the sanctuary, the space in which I live and move and have my being. And in and through and as me, all that is comes to life. May I know that I am a sanctuary of God, of love, of all that is. I am a sanctuary that is a channel for so many resources of spirit. A peace that passes understanding because it flows from spirit. an inspiration that passes my intellect. It exceeds the intellect and can use the intellect because it flows from spirit inspiration. This very life energy, the vibration of love, which is to recognize the essence of one in all that appears as other. Let me know that I am the sanctuary and that I intend to be a good receiver, attuned. But I ask, are there other ways to see this? Are there other ways to approach this? Are there assumptions that I am making that are limiting me and limiting this? Holy Spirit, guide me. Let me be the way, as Jesus taught us all that we are the way, that God shows up. And I am willing to be in relationship with this idea of personal integrity. That my words, my thoughts, my intentions truly are my highest and best. And when I show up as any other than the highest and best I can conceive, that's the power of forgiveness, of repent, which just simply means to do it again, to try again, to say I'm sorry, I can do better. To notice any subtle ways that I am out of personal integrity. Gracefully show me, Holy Spirit, so that I can be in the highest personal integrity, for it is from that place that my full potential can bloom and blossom into new ways of becoming. And every day may I put feet on my prayers. May I plant seeds and nurture seeds. May I contribute in the way that I can contribute. May I never underestimate the power of my presence, the power of keeping my consciousness aligned with truth, the power of a compliment, the power of a letter, the power of showing up and standing up and speaking up. May I realize that every day I am contributing seeds and nurturing seeds. And may they be the seeds of the highest potential possible. I am a sanctuary. Pure and holy, tried and true, a living sanctuary for all that is. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary. With thanksgiving Richard and Pete, thank you. And thanks to each and every one of you. May we trust in our potential actively, the potential of spirit, the potential of personal integrity, and the potential of the seeds that we sow and nurture. So I'm going to ask Mary Kay to come up. She's got another song for us. But again, I want to thank you for being present this week. I want to thank each and every one of you for your continued support. We were hoping that next Sunday we'd be able to gather on a smaller number, but that's been postponed indefinitely. The numbers, as I'm sure all of you know, the cases of COVID are really, really climbing, and on a scale from 1 to 10, the risk that we would be encountering is at least a level 8, and so it does not make any sense at all. So we have decided we'll postpone that. We'll continue to watch, and so I want to thank you for your patience. Thank you for allowing us to keep your pictures. Everybody that comes in for the first time has just moved. Your pictures, whether you know it or not, are still all over the chapel here, so we feel so surrounded and blessed by you. So I want to thank you. If you are able and willing to do so, we have ways online. You can go online, or you can send it to our church. If you can make a donation, we greatly appreciate that. If you have any special requests, please let us know those as well. We're holding those in prayer. So again, I want to thank those who have been here today. And Mary Kay, this is a personal friend that wrote this song, correct?
Yes, this song is written by Ann Hampton Calloway, who is a great vocalist, a wonderful songwriter, and a beautiful person. And she gave her personal blessing to sing this song, and with the words, I hope it opens many hearts.
Thank you so much. So what's the title?
Oh, it's called At the Same Time.
Yeah.
Think of all the hearts beating in this world at the same time. Think of all the faces telling stories of our lives at the same time. Think of all the eyes looking out into this world, trying to make some sense of what we see. Think of all the ways we have of seeing. Think of all the ways there are of being. Think of all the children born into this world at the same time. Feel your love surround them through the years they'll need to grow at the same time. Think of all the hands that will be reaching for a dream. Think of all the dreams that could come true if the hands we're reaching with could come together, joining me and you. When it comes to thinking of tomorrow, we must protect our fragile destiny. In this precious life, there is no time to borrow. The time has come to be a family. Oh, think of all the love pouring out our hearts at the same time. Think of all the light shining through this world at the same time. Think of what we've been given. Think what we could lose. All of life is in our trembling time to overcome our fears and join to build a world that loves and understands. It helps to think of all the hearts beating in this world and a hope for all the hearts healing in this world. There's a healing music in our hearts beating in this world at the same time. At the same
Thank you, Mary Kay, and
thank you, Ann Hampton Calloway.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us next week. May you be blessed and may you be a blessing. The light of God surrounds you, the love of God enfolds you, the power of God protects you, and the presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is, and all shall be well. Have a good week.